All right, y'all. This got to be said. All right. Now, it's been 2 days since Jeff Horn had shocked the world and beat Manny Pacquiao for the WBO and lineal welterweight titles. Okay. Now, excuse me, I'm having a little sinus problem, but it is what it is. Hopefully, I can get over it. So, anyways, um, there's been a lot of vile and personal attacks that's been directed towards Jeff Horn and his wife, who's pregnant, by the way. Congratulations to Jeff Horn. He's about to be a father. Okay, and shout out to Boxing Beats Rhymes because I've seen this in his video, and that which inspired me to do this video right here. And all these attacks are coming from these vile and stupid ass Manny Pacquiao fans. All right, who's going on a tangent, complaining, bitching about how they believe that Pacquiao was robbed from a decision. Okay, they're entitled to their right to believe that. That Horn is a disgrace, of all Australian fighters. He don't deserve that title. He needs to give it back to Pacquiao. His wife is ugly, all that shit. You know what? These bitches are making these comments right there. Yes, they're bitches. They're cowards basically. They're nothing but cowards because in the reality, making all those vile attacks towards him and his wife who's pregnant, and the fact attacking his profession as an educator or a teacher, whatever it may be. They wouldn't have the heart to get off from that keyboard and then say it in his face. They wouldn't do it. All right, let's be realistic on that. Okay. Now, let me remind these little poor and these poor bastards who doesn't have any time left. Who has much time in their hands, whatnot. They have nothing else to do with their lives. Let me remind them that it's not Jeff Horn's fault the way the fight was scored, the way it was scored. Okay. If anybody that needs to be directed with the not saying directed as far as personal attacks is concerned. If you need to be angry with anyone, then you need to direct that with the refs who scored the fight. Okay? Now, again, I stand by my position. It's a close fight. It could have gone either way. It was not no clean sweep. In my opinion, Pacquiao won it. 115 to 113. And plus, I have to make a couple clarifications. After watching the fight again, I did give the 10th round to the Pacquiao, but I have to rescind that. I have to give it to Horn. All right? However, I will have to give the second round to Pacquiao. All right. And plus the knockdown that I thought could have been scored did look like a push from Pacquiao's left hand glove that Jeff Horn went down. So yeah, that looked like a push. So no knockdown there. So with that said, yeah, I have to make a couple retractions there on that. So I still have the same score, but I have to make a couple revisions, whatnot. But the one thing I do have to say though is that the punch stats are way off in my opinion. Now, let me make this clear. I'm not saying that Pacquiao did not outland Jeff Horn in the punch stats. What I'm saying is that if you look at the third round, up to the third round when the punch stats were brought up, as far as an update is concerned, it showed Pacquiao landing 32 punches compared to Jeff Horn's 11 up to the third round. That made no fucking sense. That was way skewed. And for those out there who are trying to rely on punch stats as a justification of how they feel Pacquiao got robbed for this fight, punch stats is nothing but, or CompuBox in other words, it's nothing but a system that's where 2 men or 3 men, whoever it may be, are observing the fight live and they're pressing buttons to score the blows. Okay, it's not a computerized system where it detects a fighter's movement, punch movement in the ring. Okay, let's just get that clear. All right. So with that said, it's a flawed system. Humans make mistakes when it comes to punch stats. Human error. Okay, I felt it was very skewed in my opinion. But anyhow, back to the topic at hand. All right. These Pacquiao, these idiots, man. These are the same bitches now crying about robbery, crying about this is the biggest robbery in history, whatnot. Pacquiao didn't deserve this, blah, 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 blah. As I recall, let's take a trip back to memory lane. These are the same bitches who didn't mind when Pacquiao got 2 controversial decisions over Juan Manuel Marquez, the second fight and the third fight. Now, the second fight, I didn't think it was controversial. I don't know. Some people dubbed this controversial, but I feel like I have to bring it up. Some people felt that Marquez should have been deserving the decision in the second fight. All right, but I felt that it was close. It could have gone either way. So, in my opinion, I thought the fight was a draw. That was just my opinion. All right, but I will be fair to Pacquiao. In the first fight, he definitely got robbed from a decision, in my opinion. All right, even though Marquez did battle back, though. Let's not take any credit away from Marquez. But the third fight, hands down, that Pacquiao lost that fight. Hands down, he lost, but he got a decision. And these are the same idiots who came out and said and cried and bitched and moaned, and they taunted and harassed the Marquez fans with vile, comments, racial slurs, whatnot, saying, "Oh, stop crying, you." I'm not gonna say it here, but stop crying, you, whatever. That's boxing. That's the way it goes. Our man won the fight. End of story. He deserved the decision, right? So them being denied that their fighter got a gift decision over Marquez, all right, in the third fight. And then when it happened to them, when he didn't receive the decision against Bradley at the first fight, which I felt that Bradley lost the fight myself, these bitches crying robbery. Oh, it's a robbery. It's a disgrace to boxing. And they at the same time were attacking Tim Bradley and his family. They were attacking his social media. They went off on Tim Bradley, saying, "You're a disgrace of a fighter. You should give that belt back to Pacquiao." There's one individual that I bumped heads with one time, saying that the WBO should overturn the decision, and Tim Bradley should give the belt back. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's boxing, the way it goes. All right. Number one. Number two, I'm not saying it was not a controversial decision. Yes, it was a controversial decision. I felt Pacquiao won that fight. But sanctioning bodies cannot overturn a decision, okay? The only thing they can do is like, okay, well, they can't overturn a decision, but it depends on what the severity of the situation is, all right? When a fight goes to distance and it goes to the judges' scorecards, they can never overturn that. The only thing they can do is say, you know what? Let's go ahead and order a rematch. That's all they can do. So the WBO ruled on the matter. They say, you know what? Based off the what we've seen, yes, we felt that Pacquiao won the fight, but we cannot overturn the decision. It's it's the way it goes. The only thing that can be done is that a rematch can be ordered. Well, they couldn't order the rematch because it was a voluntary defense, I believe. It was not a mandatory defense for Pacquiao's title, so it was voluntary. So Pacquiao, or Bradley, who was a champion at the time, had reserved the right to give Pacquiao a rematch. So that was up to him to do it. So anyways, my point is that these, the behavior of these people, man, it's just unconscionable. It's disgraceful, all right? And talking about this is the biggest robbery of the century. I mean, sometimes I ask myself, when did these people start watching boxing? Seriously, I mean, do they know about the robberies that occurred in the early 1900s and the corruption that was going on at that time, where black fighters were severely marginalized by the mob and the many white champions didn't want to give them a shot at the title? And the reason why they didn't want to give them a shot is because they were fear of their reputation being tarnished if they lost to a black fighter who they felt at the time were very inferior when it comes to their, when it comes to tribalism, huh? All right. These black fighters at that time had to enter contracts where slave contracts, as you want to call it, where they couldn't get paid if they didn't win a fight. Or if they wanted to win a championship, they had to knock the other guy out. Even if the other guy is being beat to a bloody pulp, if that guy is able to finish the fight without getting knocked out, he will still be the champion. All right? Okay? How about a time where one fighter, Barbados Walcott, was fighting, I think it was Kit Lavigne, or I think it was someone else. I have to go back and check. All right, so Barbados Walcott was beating this guy, but from pillar to post, was beating the crap out of him. Out of nowhere, the referee blatantly, abruptly stops the fight, and awards the fight to the victor who's getting his ass whooped. Why? Because that referee was gambling. Okay, the guy was making bets in that fight that he was officiating, so he knew that he pretty much was losing, was going to lose his money given the fact that Barbados Walcott was was beating the shit out of this dude, but instead he elected to take it upon himself to disqualify him so that way he could save his bet. Now, what kind of shit is that? Having a referee disqualify you for no reason whatsoever and rob a victory from you, just like that. And newspaper decisions, yeah, there were controversial newspaper decisions back then as well. Okay, so with that said, corruption has existed way before all of us were born. It existed up to this point. It's not going to go away. As much as we want to see it, leave the sport of boxing, it's not going to go away. But to be fair, corruption is not as bad as it was bad as it is today than it was back then. Let's be realistic. All right. And some of these white champions who didn't want to give these black fighters title shots even admitted that they feared these guys to the point that, even if I got the biggest payday in my career, I don't want to risk my reputation. Gus Lamovich, who even admitted that he didn't want to fight Edson Charles for the light heavyweight title, was offered a big payday, his biggest payday to do it, but didn't want to fight him out of fear of it ruining his reputation of losing to a guy like Charles. All right. So that's the reality of it, of when it comes to corruption. All right. And to sit here and to say that, and one guy commented on my video saying that Jeff Horn is the dirtiest fighter that Pacquiao's ever faced. Well, I disagree with you on that because if you don't know who Agapito Sanchez is, please look up that fight between Agapito Sanchez versus Manny Pacquiao. You want to talk about dirty tactics, blatant dirty tactics? Look at Sanchez's dirty tactics against Pacquiao. And me personally, in Pacquiao's defense, I thought Pacquiao should have won that fight, his first unification uh, fight, which he didn't win. He got a draw, which I felt that was a disgrace because Sanchez should have been deducted a point for all the shit that he was doing, or better yet, should have been disqualified. So, yeah, that's just my take on it. But anyways, that's the fighter right there you need to look at who blatantly fouled the shit out of Pacquiao in that fight. All right, showed no remorse for doing what he doing. Everything he did was intentional. Headbutts, punches in the groin, you name it. You know, so whatnot. Now, as far as Jeff Horn doing what he did, okay, first things first, yes, he came in. He was fighting up close in the clinches. Yes, you know, their heads will collide. Especially that's going to be inevitable in a situation like that when fighters are fighting up close in the clinches, okay? Particularly you have a southpaw and you have an orthodox. As I was saying. Now, when you're fighting the clinches, when you're fighting up close, when a fighter like Jeff Horn is trying to smother a guy's punches, when you fight up close as an opposing fighter, headbutts and clashes are going to happen, man. That's inevitable, all right? Now, that doesn't make it seem, intentional that Jeff Horn is trying to deliberately do that. No, okay? What he's trying to do is trying to negate the man's punches. What I don't understand, what people didn't point out here, is that when Manny Pacquiao was trying to be elusive and he was trying to slip those punches, or better yet, duck underneath, he was bringing his head up when he was coming up underneath. That's funny nobody wants to mention that, right? Why didn't the Pacquiao fans mention that fact? So the head clashes were unintentional. They were accidental. Jeff Horn didn't do that deliberately, okay? I don't know why he's getting singled out here as a dirty fighter, okay? Did he use roughhouse tactics? Absolutely. But the fact is, I didn't think they were very abrasive. Many fighters are going to use roughhouse tactics. They're going to do that to try to win a fight, okay? Trying to make some adjustments. That happens, okay? They were not blatant. They were not deliberate. So you guys need to get over that shit. That's Pacquiao's job in that situation. He has to find a way to negate that situation, all right? And apparently he couldn't do it. Now, to be fair to him, I said he won the fight. But the fact is, to say that Jeff Horn is a dirty fighter, is a disgrace of an Aussie fighter, I dismiss that notion. I dismiss it, okay? Jeff Horn is a guy who earns my respect for doing what he had to do, okay? I'm not saying he did. I'm not, please, don't misconstrue what I just said here, okay? He's not a dirty fighter, okay? He's not known to use dirty tactics, for one, all right? He was trying to find a way to smother his opponent's punches to make sure he didn't get off any of his shots. That's what any fighter does in a situation like that when they're trying to close the gap. We've seen how well Pacquiao does when he fights from a distance, when he fight at range, and Jeff Horn couldn't fight him from a range, and he had to find a way to get inside to negate that range. All right, any other fighter would have done that, or they were fighting Pacquiao. All right. So another thing I wanted to add is that it's about time you guys give him respect, okay? Give this man respect and give him, just give him just commend him for his courageous effort, because he performed above expectations that it was way beyond my belief, all right? I didn't think he was going to last no more than 5 rounds, but he definitely earned my respect as a fighter, as a guy who could compete on the world level, all right? And I think the vile attacks towards him and his wife, in his profession, I think that's going way overboard, guys. Way overboard. All right? And another thing I have to add, too. These are the same people who didn't mind that Floyd Mayweather was getting fouled deliberately by Marcos Maidana when Maidana was punching Floyd in the groin during the middle of the clinches, hoping the referee didn't see it, was using headbutts as well. So, I mean, come on. And these are the same people who are saying, oh, Floyd needs to stop bitching. He needs to stop bitching. He needs to start fighting. He needs to fight. And if you're going to complain about that, then he needs to get out of the profession. That's what they were saying. That's what they're saying. But vice versa, when it happens to their fighter where they felt they felt that he was getting fouled, which I didn't see, in my opinion. There was no deliberate fouls, what's not. They're saying that Jeff Horn needs to get out of the fight. The rules need to be, people need to fight within the rules. I mean, get the fuck out of here. This is crazy. This is crazy talk, all right? And there's another guy who's upset that people are calling for Manny Pacquiao, to retire. Well, because he felt that, Matt Pacquiao was robbed. He said that's crazy to say that he needs to retire based off of robbery. Well, you know what? let me just say something about that. He also said that name one fighter that. Oh, I'm sorry. Check that. Not one guy. Three guys. Three guys are saying it's crazy how people are calling for Manny Pacquiao to retire after a robbery decision, which they felt that was the case. Well, I'm not sure if they actually watched the fight, because if you see the way Manny Pacquiao performed, he really doesn't have what it takes, in my opinion. He looks really slowed down after all these years. He's up in age. He's been battle tested. He's been through many wars. He has a lot of scar tissue, whatnot. He really has slowed down. He's lost most of his reflexes, even though he had a little bit of it in the Jeff Horn fight, but they're not as quick as he used to be. All right, his hand speed is not there. So why are you trying to be very dismissive of the fact that people are calling for his retirement based off the way he performed? You know, I'm not saying he didn't win the fight. I still believe he won the fight, but he definitely doesn't have it anymore. All right. And these are the same people. These people also asked, it's like, well, can you name one fighter that was asked to retire, given the fact that off a controversial decision? Well, there's a couple of them that I know, and there's probably more. George Foreman. When George Foreman fought Shannon Briggs when he was defending his lineal heavyweight title, many can argue that George Foreman was robbed from a decision from Shannon Briggs. Okay, they gave Briggs the decision, and we all know that Briggs didn't win that fight, but after that fight concluded, Foreman retired. People said that, you know what, you shouldn't fight no more, champ. I mean, you can't compete with these young heavyweights that's coming up. That's what they were saying to Foreman, which I tend to agree, because even though I felt Foreman won the fight, but he looked much more slower, much more sluggish, a lot more flat-footed than when he fought Michael Moore. So, yeah, there's one situation where a controversial decision was awarded to the challenger, even though Foreman was the champion, right? People asked him to retire. Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. With Marvin Hagler, some people felt was robbed from a decision from Leonard, right? Some of the Vargas handlers were calling for Hagler to retire after that fight, but Hagler insisted that he wanted to get that rematch. He said, no, I want my rematch with Leonard. So Leonard was taking his precious time. He didn't respond to Hagler, so Hagler was getting impatient to the point he said, you know what? Forget it. If you're not going to give me my rematch, then I'm going to just retire. And that's exactly what Hagler did. People were calling for Hagler to retire after that Leonard fight, but he insisted that he should get that rematch before he does. But since he did get that rematch for Leonard, he decided to retire. That's the way it is, until Leonard all of a sudden now popped up out of nowhere and said, you know what, let's do a rematch. And Hagler's like, fuck you, man, get a life. That's according to Bob Arum when it happened at a dinner celebration back in 1988, I believe. That's what had happened. But anyways, it is what it is. So there you go. There have been situations where fighters were, where a fighter was at the end of his career, and then after he lost to a controversial decision, he was asked to retire. Yeah, that's what happened. So there's two fighters right there. There's more I can name, but I'm not going to go through this video because it's that's a long process. But needless to say, yeah, guys, my point is this, that give Jeff, again, I have to repeat myself, give Jeff Horn his credit, give him respect for what he did. And yes, he's not a dirty fighter, all right? And this is me defending Jeff Horn, all right? He's not a dirty fighter. And stop the attacks on him and his wife, who's pregnant, by the way, and stop attacking his profession. I think that's way out of line right there. I mean, crybabies, man. You guys need to get a life. Real talk, man. That's all I got to say. I'm out.